Well, hello there. I'm Susan Radojevic, and this is Corner Office. At our agency, we believe people, performance, and profit are key indicators of an organization's success. We also believe aligning an organization's portfolio of events with corporate goals is a business builder tool used to create success. These two beliefs inspired the creation of Corner Office, a show about introducing corporate leaders to event strategies that unleash people potential, improve organizational performance, and drive profit. A quick sidebar here. We define events as face-to-face, virtual, or hybrid gatherings that an organization invests in to build business. Each episode of Corner Office will connect corporate leaders like yourself with event methods, resources, tools, and technology to help you build agile and resilient organizations. And today, for the first time, we bring you Corner Office in a hybrid format, in real time, and on location at THiNKSPOT Burlington. THiNKSPOT Burlington is a different kind of gathering place. Its focus is on creating relationships and communication skills using events as a leadership intervention tool and the method of collaboration. And joining us right now is Debra Pickfield. Debra is founder and also the principal and think master of THiNKSPOT Burlington. Debra is going to help us think, be, and engage differently. Nice to have you in Corner Office, Debra.
Thank you very much. It's great that you're here and everybody that's come to join us. Thank you.
Okay. Also participating in our live broadcast is you, our virtual community, as well as our in-house audience. Thank you for joining us today. If you are interested in posing a question or want to make a comment and you're watching us virtually, you can use the alltalktv.com tool tab to post your question. If you are following us on our Twitter hashtag COLive, you can post your question there. And we have our two social media gurus here in the audience, and Maria and Ryan, and they will make sure that we get to your question. They'll be monitoring all of those channels. And for our in-house audience, we haven't forgotten about you. We're going to do the old-fashioned way of communicating and give you a microphone to pose your question. How's that? So just raise your hand, and Maria or Ryan will get to you with the microphone. We really want to make this a collaborative, interactive activity today, so please feel free just to join in the conversation. I think we've covered all of our communication tools. My goodness, it's amazing how many tools we have to communicate, and yet, do we really communicate?
Good question.
Okay, Debra, let's start off with you. You spent 20 years in financial services, helping to grow a company from startup to having a global presence. You have an MBA, and now you are the founder of THiNKSPOT Burlington. In today's uncertain times, economic times, what prompted you to take this journey?
I know, such a great question. And almost everybody said to me, oh, why would you start it now? And I kind of went, well, if not now, when would you do it? So my passion around collaboration came from doing my MBA because I realized how hard it was. And there was the story I like to share is that there was a group of 16 of us. We were working on a case study. And I'm not a wallflower by any, I mean, I put my voice out there, you know that. And I could not get my voice heard, not even once in 2 hours. And I was so frustrated, but I was angry. And I checked out. I just said, fine, kind of, you know, so you guys can do it if you're not listening, because they were all very alpha oriented and just wanted to get their opinions out. So the next day we were doing an exercise where we could do everything in silence. We posted things on the wall. You could shift somebody's opinion, put it somewhere else, and it was great. And I said, in feedback, you know what, that's where I finally had my voice come out. And I realized, well, if I felt that way, and I'm not somebody who's usually all that quiet, imagine how other people feel when they don't get their voice heard. So that's when I realized how hard collaboration actually was.
Yes, you know, one of the things that I've noticed, and preparing for the show, I've read a lot of material that you supplied as well as other materials on collaboration. And I've always been of the mind, too, that it's always the strong voice in the room that always has the attention. So, but really understanding now, and I don't understand it on the level that you do, but about collaboration, it's not always the strong voice. It is just making people feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you get them to get to that point?
And that's one of the key things I think offers really well about what ThiNKSPOT is. Only in that we say, you know, you can have 15 people in this room, 15, 18 people. There will be for sure 5 that won't say a word because that's just who they are. So having lots of breakout areas gets people into smaller groups, and guess what? You can't hide. So I like to put it that for those of you who dominate, we just say, you know what, relax. This is your time to let other people come forward. And those of you who let everybody else do it, this is actually your time and your responsibility to say something. Because the wisdom is within everybody. We just have to figure out a way to hear about it, and then decide how does that help us in our decision making.
It's interesting. One of the things that we hear a lot when we work with corporate executives is that the challenges and the problems they're facing today have not increased in number. It's the same number of problems and challenges, but the intensity of them has increased because of the need to respond very quickly, as well as these challenges and problems coming at them from all directions. So what problem or challenge could ThiNKSPOT Burlington help solve for the leaders?
Okay. And the way I like that question is that for so long we've been based on the fact that somebody was the hero, whether they were a CEO or they were the vice president level. They were just the people who had the answers, they created the vision, and so everybody else's job was to try and figure it out and make it happen. And what we're saying, when you come here, it's a safe place to say, I don't know the answer. And because that's what a lot of collaboration is about, is saying, how do we figure that out together? And so when they come here, we're saying how you do it in the smaller areas or whether you do it together, it's okay to say, it's a safe place to say, I don't know. And it's called vulnerability, which is awfully hard for people who have that armor up and are used to thinking they have all the answers.
A lot of time people don't realize that they have the answers. See, I'm a firm believer that everybody has a special gift in them. It's a matter of just tapping into that gift, figuring out what that gift is, and then tapping it. But a lot of time they don't feel that they do have the answers. So creating an environment that makes them safe. You've used that word a few times.
Yeah, and it's safe has to come from they have to be given permission. So a CEO who was here, and I think I talked about it in the blog, was they at first kind of took this posture with the people, well, no, that's not the truth. And these were lying people. They actually knew what was going on. And when the one manager finally said, no, this is a safe place to say what they need to say, the CEO ended up hearing everything or things that they'd never heard before. Well, and the argument being, how can you make a fulsome decision if you actually don't have all the insights from as many places as you can get it so that you can actually make an informed decision? So that's how we think it helps in what we do here. So.
Okay. What do you say we tap into the wisdom of people in the room and the wisdom of the people out in cyberspace, huh?
Perfect.
With this next question. It's actually a two-part question. And one of the things that we've noticed, and that I've noticed personally, is that there's so much buzzwords. There are so many buzzwords out there. And to communicate is very challenging because we're asked to communicate in 140 characters sometimes, you know, with tweets and stuff like that. So is collaboration another buzzword? That's the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is, how would you define collaboration? Because the other thing that I find always is there's a definition, and if you go to the good old dictionary, the Oxford Dictionary, and you look up the definition, and then you read some of these definitions that are put out there by different people and different companies to suit what their needs are, it's nothing like the actual word is, what the definition of the actual word is. So why don't we, I know Debra has a great answer for this, so
my opinion.
We're going to wait for Debra's wisdom, but I'm going to ask, and before I ask Maria and Ryan to see if there's anybody else that has posted something in cyberspace, what about the wisdom in this room? Does anybody want to give us a shot at giving either, is collaboration a buzzword, or what your definition of collaboration is? Oh, we have a microphone right up here. Somebody.
Thank you. My name's Sandra Eagle, and I'm with Corporate Meetings and Events magazine. Collaboration, I don't think, is a buzzword, and I believe that because companies need sometimes to foster communication within their own industry or within their own company, but also companies need to collaborate sometimes outside of their own core competencies. And I was wondering if you could maybe answer I'm wondering sometimes, do people collaborate to drive their own internal agenda, or should it be as a goal to a common good or something that will both benefit both parties?
Yeah, and I mean, if you're comfortable, I mean, you just touched on it, which is a really key point, is it's coming together for a purpose that's beyond what their own individual purpose is, or even their own organization's purpose. So the way I like to describe collaboration is actually co-creating something you have no clue what it actually is, which means you all have to leave. You have your insights, and that's great, but when you're co-creating, you don't know what the outcome is, and that's what makes a difference.
And also, would you use your own core competencies to actually contribute to this common goal that you actually don't know if you're going to arrive at, but you're driving towards it?
Yeah, I mean, and that's exactly, I think that's our value, right? That's what, if we have a core competency, and there's somebody in the room here who shared a story just last week about the most positive team she's ever been on is the fact that they all celebrated their unique gifts and knew when to put that forward, and that's your core competency. And so when organizations can do that, then the outcome is our pie has become much bigger than what it was. We're not trying to compete for the same part of a pie. Our pie has become bigger. Okay. So I agree with you, yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Sandra. Anybody else in the room want to share something? Yeah? Right here.
Decapitated.
I believe collaboration is and isn't a buzzword. I believe we all, as business leaders, intellectually we get what collaboration is. We accept that it's a great idea. I think there's a gap to be filled between internalizing that and living and breathing it and having it be a part of what we do. I've been in meetings where the intention is collaboration, and then you see people shut down. So again, intellectually, we all get, wow, it's a great idea, but there's a big gap between that's just a part of everything we do.
Yeah. We're in transition. Are you saying we're in transition? I'm sorry, your name?
Angela.
Angela. Are you saying that we're in transition from this kind of robotic way of doing things, if I can say that, to a little bit more freefall?
I'm not sure if we're in transition. I just believe there's a lot of work to be done before we begin to really internalize that concept. And it's just a part of how we do business. So.
And I think that goes back to, the expression I like, which is the ego, because that's what gets us up every morning, and the ego is what, our whole resume and our life is built on that. It's what we've accomplished. So now all of a sudden we're saying, well, park it. And Tina over there is the one who we had a great laugh over the fact that once you actually know you have to park your ego, it kind of takes away all the fun of getting angry about something because you realize your ego's driving it anyways. But it's a healthy part of who we are, but you have to know how to manage it.
Yeah.
And that's where I speak to Angela. I mean, most people, it's about me.
You mean it's not?
Well, it is actually. It is all about me, but that's.
Isn't that the 70s? Wasn't the 70s?
Oh no, I use it every day. Lots of people. But that's just. It's just reframing how we look at things, coming together for that greater good that we talked about for the organization or a bigger group.
Do we have? Oh, we have something from our virtual community.
We do. I have a question from Melissa Huggett, and her question is, how does collaboration differ from teamwork? Is this just semantics?
That's a great question, and we're going to get back to Melissa because we're going to take a quick break right now, and we'll be right back. We are back. This is Corner Office, and I'm Susan Radojevic in conversation with Debra Pickfield, Principal and Think Master of THiNKSPOT Burlington. Before we broke away, we had a question from our virtual audience, Melissa Haggett.
We've had groups here where a senior manager left in tears because they felt that they weren't getting anywhere with their team. So you could say that the teamwork didn't happen, but really what they realized is that they were showing what's something they really cared about. And so the team members were saying, I can't go past this, I can't go where you're asking me to go. But now you know something, right? You know, okay, well this is their line in the sand, how do we work with that? Again, that's that co-creation of saying, I have no idea what this is going to be as a team, so let's figure it out. And that's, to me, the really big difference.
When I think of teamwork, I'm going to go back to my meeting planning days. We used to create events where, you know, the organization wanted to do teamwork, and this was back in the 90s when teamwork was becoming such a big buzzword, sorry. But, and their whole idea was a bunch of people getting together and just having fun. Now, I do and big supporter of having fun, but at the end of the day, when we ask them, you know, so what is it that you want to get out of this teamwork experience, they didn't have an idea of, it was just going to, you know, we're going to bond. Mm-hmm. Well, you know what, you can also bond after work over beer. Where you're going to spend all this money to bond, you know, I don't know. To me, teamwork is very different than collaboration. Collaboration to me is work. It's like really understanding people.
It's the hardest thing we do. I don't care what organization you're with, and during the MBA I said to the dean at one point, because part of our MBA program was quite upset that a group of us were focusing on collaboration, and we just said, this needs to be the underpinning of absolutely every part of any MBA program. It's just so important. It's what you do every day with your family, it's what you do every day with your colleagues, and it's how you just exist in the world, and we're not really taught how to do that all that well. So when you talk about team building, and yes, that's fun when people do that, and I think laughter is a big part of that. It's a good equalizer, just like art is a great equalizer. But there's a lot of other ways to do that, and how do you figure how you're going to work together, knowing you're all very different people.
Yes.
And that's what takes time. But just going to finish up, the trust and respect that you need between your team members, that takes some time to happen. But it can actually kind of kick in really quickly if you have some sort of an event where all of a sudden they kind of go, okay, I can trust you.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that might have been what the organizations were looking to do.
Probably. Anybody else want to add something from our audience? Yes? We need a microphone right here.
Hi, my name's Tina. It's a really interesting question, I think, and I just wanted to say there's a couple of things that have come out for me even in the dialogue so far. One is that language is so tricky now because we assert so many meanings to the same phrase or word. And so it is really important when you're trying to dialogue like this, I think, to say, well, what is it that you mean by that? And to be willing to dig deep into understanding what somebody else is saying, because, collaboration could mean 1,000 different, very valid things to different people. And it doesn't mean it's not collaboration, it just means that's their kind of definition of it. So I think one of the things that came out for me, though, in the way that we're speaking specifically about it here, is the notion that you're creating something that didn't exist before together.
Yeah.
And so I think that points to something important around teamwork versus collaboration, because, in teamwork, I think of, like a sports team or a business team, or, you each have a specific role, you're working together, you've worked out how you're going to interact together in your roles to accomplish an end goal. And that's very important. There's nothing wrong with good teamwork anymore. It's not like it's gone out of style. I think it's still very useful. But collaboration, I think, is different in that you're really saying, I don't really actually know what my role is. I know I'm coming here with life experience and insights and things that I'm excited about, and I don't really know what your role is going to be, or your role, but I know that we're all going to create something together here, and we're willing to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Tina. Do we have anybody in our virtual audience? No? I want to piggyback. Yep, sorry.
No, is...
Oh, Sandra? Thank you. Sandra's sitting on my side here, and I didn't see you, Sandra, sorry.
Is there any sort of framework that's essential when you start to talk about collaboration? Because you mentioned earlier smaller breakout rooms so that people feel safe and they have the permission to talk safely. But is there any sort of framework that you put in place? Because obviously someone has to drive the collaboration. You can't have, 15 guys who like to follow, or 15 people who like to follow, and not someone who will take down the ideas and analyze them or lead the group in ways to discuss and determine what ideas are worthy of follow-up and what ideas are kind of maybe follow-up later.
Yeah.
So is there a framework?
Yeah, it's funny. I have a colleague who's going to love you because I'll make a plug for his book. John Kuipers, who was hoping to be here today, but he wrote a book called Who's the Driver Anyways? Because you have a team that's going to, or a group of people working together, they have to give permission at some point to say who's going to be the one to take it. And you're saying that's that person's gift, to assimilate all the information and take and try and, as Roger Martin talks about in The Opposable Mind, is live with the complexity of there's no right answer. Yeah. And so how do you take it and try and make the best decision going forward? So a great example of that was in the Chilean mine. The gentleman who was charged with making sure how many, what was it, teaspoons of tuna, and how much you could have to drink, and when you could exercise, and those people gave that person that permission to be able to be that to be that person who decided that. And there's a great book called As One that was written by one of the co-authors was the gentleman who runs Deloitte Touche in the States, and they talk about all various forms of collaboration. So Cirque du Soleil, when they're getting into the whole creative part, it's completely a collaborative brainstorming, free-for-all. But boy, when they come to execute, it's totally following by the book, and there's certain people who have their roles. So it's a great question.
It still comes down to, doesn't it, to having all the great ideas out there, but the leader still has to decide which ideas is going to fit best within the big picture, within the bigger strategies, and they have to be open to listen to the other ideas. But it still comes down to one person making the decision at the end, doesn't it?
If in my personal opinion, I think if they've been tasked with that, that's great. That's what they're taking that information. But as we talked about I've told you about ThiNKSPOT on air, we talk about it as being stewardship almost instead of being a leader or a follower, is the fact that we're all stewarding each other through this whole process. And so there is one person who's ultimately said, you know what, okay, I'm going to be the heavy. I'm going to make the decision. Yours didn't go, mine didn't go, but yours did, Vicki, right? So that's the person's role. I don't know that I would necessarily even call it the leader, because I think that unfortunately it connotes that somebody actually has got more authority and power that maybe it doesn't have to be what it actually is. And I think David has a question.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Ron. Just to piggyback on what you were saying, the people in the room all have different preferences. And so if you're getting a collaborative group together, you're going to have people who are going to want to brainstorm. You're going to have people who want to analyze everything, and you're going to have people who will want to get to the decision right away. And it's important to sort out who those people are in order to get to the decision. Is that what you found?
Absolutely. And that's again respecting their gifts and understanding what they contribute to the whole equation and when to use them. And so we kind of joked a bit about, if I can bring this up, about how could you have guidelines around collaboration. Well, as we said, there's some people who could talk for 20 minutes about absolutely nothing. And you can't do that because you're going to lose most of the people in the room. So it's giving them, saying, you're obliged by constraints sort of thing. You got 2 minutes, get it going. Make your point, but at least your voice has been heard. So, there's lots of people, I call this the impatience hat, because there's some people who, somebody in my family who's been known to kind of want to be out of the meeting before they've walked into the meeting. So, you have to respect that, right? And they're good at keeping it on track and keeping it going. And so, again, that's the gift that they offer to it. And so how do we make sure we identify it so we know that they're not being frustrated as well?
Okay,
so,
we've got a question from our virtual audience.
Yes, I have a question from Luke Levinas of Connect Meetings and Incentives. And his question is, for Debra, if you can share with us your thoughts on collaboration between a team compared to between two people.
Okay, thank you. 2 people is easy. Thinking back to the 16 people, that was, I checked out. I was not engaged with that group at all. And so in a team, it requires a more intentional effort towards making sure that you understand where everybody's coming from. You've checked to see whether you've heard from those individuals. And you want them to be able to kind of go at the end, I may not like what you did, but I'm actually going to go forward. And the greatest story I read about that was actually in Obama's wars, where they were really trying to decide about whether to go into Afghanistan. And I think there's an article actually also in the New York Times where Hillary Clinton said, we didn't agree, you know, none of us would have agreed, but we actually knew our voice was heard. And that's sometimes half the battle. And
yeah, it's just getting your voice heard,
yeah,
right?
And then you can kind of say, okay, they didn't like it, but okay, at least they heard what I had to say.
And I guess for someone that's not an extrovert or not one of those people that always needs to, you know, talk about, just having your voice heard is important, because sometimes that person may have an amazing idea in an organization.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is, how many people are the Myers-Briggs, the I's.
Yeah.
They're the ones who intentionally sit back and think, and if they don't get their ideas out there, we've lost half the wisdom.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's half the world does, probably that way.
You know, one of the things that I struggle with personally in our business, in our company, is that as president of the agency, my role is to make sure that I focus on a quick return for financial purposes against, and then weigh that against long-term investments, strategy investments. And collaboration is something to me that's a little bit of a long-term strategy investment. So how does that help with the short-term business return?
I had an interesting example yesterday. I was at a workshop in Toronto called under 1 Million Acts of Innovation, and I don't know what his position was, but he was with ING. And so he was telling how what they do in the bank at the senior level, they actually will switch positions, even if it's for 6 months. You might be in operations, you might be next in treasury. Well, that's a collaboration where you have no clue. That means treasury risk is not maybe your forte, but you know you're collaborating with your team members and you're relying on them. So from that's a short-term perspective. But the other thing that
You're cross-training there.
yeah, they totally they did it. Yeah, no, it was brilliant. I think there were a few of us who thought, wow, that's a company we'd like. I'm giving them a plug. They were very innovative in how they approach things, so that was great.
ING, you're getting a plug.
Yeah, but it also interesting to me is in your question is the long term is, yeah, if you think you've got a long time to be able to invest in building those relationships, yeah, sure, you'll take it. But that expression about obliged by constraints or the burning platform, of all of a sudden you and I have to jump off this platform because it's going to disappear. Guess what? We learn pretty quickly how to figure it out and co-create. Yeah. It's just it depends, and so that could be very short term.
One of the things that I worry about in organizations is that organizations, I think, still, not all of them, but some of them are still kind of stuck in, I need to take, you know, this idea and make it fit into what I'm doing already. So taking, you know, the what is that saying, that round peg into the square hole. I'm just worried that people are going to pick up on collaboration, bits and pieces of it, and they're going to piece it together and then plug it into an existing model. And that kind of defeats the purpose of what collaboration really is based on our discussion here. Does anybody else think that corporations are really doing more of that or less of that? That they're really kind of taking bits and pieces of something and then just plugging it into an existing infrastructure? Or are they really evolving their infrastructure?
Do you want to throw it out to the group?
Yeah, I'd love to. Any ideas? No? In your experience here, have you seen that?
I think it's a challenge for people to figure out, okay, how do I adjust my way of being? But I think once you realize the amazing possibility that's within a group, I think it's a little addicting, because I love the expression adjacent possible that Stephen Johnson talks about in the book, Where Good Ideas Come From. And you can't get there unless you've gone through these doors and through this room. You can't go around. You can't. It's not this eureka moment. It's not somebody going, oh, wow, I've been in this room and I figured it all out. It's about what you do, building on what everybody else has done. So I think that's actually a little addicting. So once you start realizing, and more people talk about collaboration, I think more and more people are kind of going, okay, I don't have to be the one. Well, I think you talked about that earlier, that I don't have to be the person who's got all the answers. I think that's a heavy weight. Why would you want that? Yeah. Right? To think true. That, you know, you're the person who's got to have it all figured out. Well, no. Doesn't work in anything we do, really. In marriage, it doesn't work in a business relationship or a friend relationship. Yep. So,
well, it's been such an enlightening 30 minutes, and our time is almost up. And I think that we can talk about this forever, I
Yeah.
think, and I know you and I have spent many hours talking about it, but I think the one thing that we have to kind of focus on is to be open. I think we just have to be more open in today's business world and just try to stay more focused on the other persons as opposed to about us. The 70s decade, it's all about me, is over, folks.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's what it is. But thank you, Debra, for
Thank you.
allowing us to tap into your wisdom and for inviting us to be here at ThiNKSPOT.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
All these things that I've just said were all things that everybody else has shared with me. So it really is
So
truly.
you're just paying it forward.
I am just. I'm just like this mouthpiece, right? It's either been in a book or it's been Tina. It's all these people in this room, Laurel, Jillian. Trust me.
Well, folks, she's a little modest, but
No.
check them out. Their website is ThiNKSPOTBurlington.com, and I'm sure that once you've seen it, you will want to host your next event here. I have just a few little housekeeping items that I'd like to share with you that I think will be of help to you in the future. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to see it again because it went by so quickly as it did for us, it is being recorded and it will be available on our website, theperegrineagency.ca, on our webpage, Corner Office Episodes, and it will be available on Monday for viewing. As mentioned at the beginning of our show, we are all about starting a conversation, interacting and getting everybody to collaborate, as we have tried to do here. So what we'd like to do is continue this conversation. So you can do that on our Corner Office blog, where Debra has posted a very interesting blog about collaboration and the ego. So please feel free to tap in there and to leave your comment or ask a question. Debra has graciously volunteered to actually answer all the questions that are posted there or any other questions that come in after we go off the air here. So that's again on our website, theperegrineagency.ca. And for future episodes, we will be hosting other episodes, and we're looking forward to that. And we will be making those announcements on our Twitter hashtag COLive, or you can follow me at Susan Radojevic. We would love to hear from organizations that have interesting event methods, resources, tools, or technology, like ThiNKSPOT Burlington is a very interesting venue for you to use for a meeting and for interacting. So if you're an organization that has one of those types of unique features, we'd love to hear from you. You can send us an email to info@theperegrineagency.ca, and if you can put in the subject line future Corner Office episode, because we'd love to have you on the show. And finally, and I must thank a few people because a lot of work goes into putting this show together. It was a quick 30 minutes, but it was a lot of work to get it together. And these people did all the hard work. I just get to sit in front of you and talk, which I just love to do anyway. So first of all, a big round of applause to our partners, alltalktv.com, our network. David and Leor, you make this production so smooth and easy, so thank you. To Ryan and to Peter from ThiNKSPOT Burlington, who helped collaborate on us getting the right message across. You guys rocked. I really appreciated your insight and your input. And to Maria and Stephanie, my Corner Office team, ladies, you blow me away every single time. So thank you all very much. And finally, my last thought of the day, and it is going to be the last thought of the day, is to you, our virtual audience and in-house audience. Time is very precious. It's something that we cannot get more of. So from everybody at Corner Office, I would like to say thank you for taking some of your precious time and spending it with us today. Thank you for watching. From Corner Office and ThiNKSPOT Burlington, I'm Susan Radojevic, logging out.